Good morning, friends. Travis here, and thanks for joining me out on my porch this morning. This is a favorite place of mine to sit an awful lot, so I thought I would just record this morning's refresh here. I've been doing a lot of reflecting since Sunday. We're in a series called Wilderness God, and the point of that series is that through the grace of God, we have been able to become aware through prayer in the desolation of our wildernesses, whether it be an internal wilderness or whether we would feel that we are in the wilderness of our greater culture and some of the challenges and griefs of our cultural moments. And so we've been asking some questions, some difficult questions, some questions that it's come to my attention even on Monday. A few folks feeling pretty uncomfortable with that word "our." The Lord's Prayer begins with "Our Father," not "my Father," or not just Father. Jesus teaches us to pray and invites us along with him in that prayer, in that hour, saying, "Our Father." And we get a little anxious. Who does the "our" include? I think history has been full of many lines, many walls, many divisions, who's in and who's out. And somewhere along the line as Christians, we've taken our marching orders more from the structures of the world than the realities and the graces of the gospel. And those lines are erased in Jesus Christ. And that's made a few of us, and if we're honest, all of us, a bit uneasy. Maybe I did us a disservice in just starting in chapter 6, verse 9, and not going back into context to what Jesus is speaking to the multitudes on the Sermon on the Mount. Just a few verses earlier, Jesus is saying to the people, starting in the first verse of chapter 6 of Matthew 6, just a few verses before the Lord's Prayer, he says, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet. Don't be the hypocrites that are in the synagogues and that stand on the streets that get their praise from others." He goes on to say, "And then when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. They stand and pray tall and large in the synagogues and on the street corners. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward up front. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Don't use empty phrases like the Gentiles do, for they think they will be heard for their many words. Don't be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him." And so he's saying, your Father, he's asking you to go into your prayer closet, to not be seen, not to do this to be seen, yet then he teaches us to pray, "Our Father." Interesting. What a subtle message that he is giving to his disciples and that he's giving to us and all that are in his name. The next chapter, just a little bit after what he says there, he says this, starting in chapter 7, "Judge not, that you not be judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use it, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye, but you do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Oh, how you can say to your brother, 'Let me take that little speck out of your eye,' when there is a log hanging out of yours. You hypocrite." Jesus is not being so subtle or subversive here. He says, "You hypocrite, first take out the log in your own eye, and then you'll be able to see clearly to help your brother." That word "all," that's a hard one to swallow. When Jesus says "our," he is gently reminding us that God is not our property, that God has claimed us and has invited us to his domain, to his big world, to his universe, to his human history. For he's the one that's redeeming. In one of the emails that I received, there was a short little line that after this individual explaining the difficulties they had in certain people being included in the hour, they said, "But salvation is the Lord's." And I thought, that's where we need to start, and that's where we need to end. And that's very uncomfortable, because salvation is not ours. And so what is our role? Our role as the people of God is to love well, to practice hospitality, to be able to see that we have more in common, far more in common, with the other, with those that we have spent our entire life trying to draw a line between us and them, to decipher between us and them. God erases that line and says, you two are siblings. You two are cut from the same cloth of humanity. You two are in need of mercy the same, and you two have more in common than you'll ever have in common with my son, Jesus Christ. But because of Christ's imputed righteousness, because of his gift, because of his humility to come to us in flesh and to cross that line and eradicate and absorb that line, that in his kingdom there is no longer lines. We can certainly choose not to be a part of it. And the tricky thing about all of that is some of the greatest damage and hurt are by those that think they're in that kingdom. And yes, they probably would never say that it is their own merit, that they don't deserve it, they didn't earn it. But I don't know that they would really deny deep in their hearts, and I know this can be true for me, that they didn't help it along. No. I've said it many times, and I will continue to say it again. The only thing that we brought to our own salvation was the sin that made it necessary. So what is our lane? What is our role? Well, I was reflecting on a father in the faith that's had a little bit of time to reflect. Sees a little bit larger than I do. And he says this. He says, saying and taking to heart the Our Father means understanding that I am his. And not just me, but all are his. It is a risk to say that I am in need of the mercy of God than the one that I think is so different than me, that I might deep in the recesses of my heart believe that they are from saving. They are too far from the reach of God's arm, and so it is risky. Even those who are outcasts, even those that are outsiders, are children of the same Father. Jesus says to us that it will be the poor, the sinners, the prostitutes, the discarded, the marginalized who enter into the kingdom of heaven even before us. That's all. I think it would be befitting for us to see that we are more likely to put up a sign in front of God that says private property and think that God is all mine. This is the temptation. It would be easy to pray to a God who has only one child, and that one child happens to be me. Knowing instead that the Father is ours. They make us feel a bit uncomfortable, but if we slow down long enough, we will see that we're not alone. That we are a part of a great family filled with all of the others in the house of God. We can share in our difficult times and also in our carefree ones, and know that it is God's doing and not ours. Friends, that's the church that I want to be a part of, and I want to learn more and more what it means to pray Our Father. Maybe you want to join me in that journey. Let's pause before we end this time and just say that together. Would you say it wherever you are? If you want to look it up, it's in Matthew chapter 6, starting in verse 9. Our Father, say it with me, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, our debts, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Father, lead us not into temptation today, but deliver us from evil and the evil one. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Amen.